Well, look, this is a very special year for Gibraltar and for the whole of the British family of nations. We are starting the Carolean era since the death of Her Majesty the Queen in September. We have a coronation coming next month, and so we thought it was right that in the same way as we have Queensway Road, we should also have Kingsway Road and Kingsway Tunnel. And of course these matters have to be approved by His Majesty, and His Majesty graciously approved the naming of the road today. Whilst he's in Germany, he had time to consider this issue when it was put to him, and he sent the message today that we could go ahead and make the announcement.
It's a historic occasion. It's going to change the way we come into Gibraltar. It's going to change the fact that we're not going to cross that runway anymore. It's not just a tunnel.
This is not just a tunnel. And what we've celebrated today is not just the infrastructure advance that we are making by having the tunnel. One of the things I wanted to celebrate today was the cooperation between my administration and the previous administration, between me and Sir Peter Cavan. I wanted to thank him, Joe Holliday and Nigel Butler for the work that they'd done in the context of this litigation. Because sometimes, too often, in particular in the modern age, people think that politicians are enemies. We're not enemies, we're opponents. And we're opponents because we have different ideological points of view, but because we want things to be best for Gibraltar. And so when somebody comes to act contrary to the interests of Gibraltar, because we're not political enemies, because we're opponents, we agree that we want to act together to stop anybody stealing a march, which might affect the interests of the Gibraltarian taxpayer or Gibraltar generally. We find not GSD answers to a problem or GSLP liberal answers to a problem, but the right answer to a problem, a Gibraltar answer to a problem. And that for me is the best part of today, that Gibraltar was able to deliver litigious success against a contractor that was trying to steal a march, contrary to the interests of the people of Gibraltar, by working together across administrations, although few people have gone as hammer and tongs as each other as Sir Peter and I have in the past, but always with that respect, always with that understanding that we're each defending our ideology.
I was going to ask you that in terms of the continuity, how important it is to have continuity, but for major projects, just so that Gibraltar is able to carry them out.
It is fundamental, and we've seen that continuity in the context of the airport. That's why I invited Sir Peter to open the airport with me. We've seen it in the context of the tunnel, and there's a lot of work that goes on in the background when we're not on the stage of politics and we are arguing over every single thing. We're actually doing a lot of work together, which citizens perhaps are not so interested in. I know that you now carry Parliament Live. We've got the cameras in Parliament, and I can see that when we are working together on a bill, improving a bill, cooperating, which happens in just about every session of the Parliament, people switch off. Because we're not the gladiators going at each other, arguing over a full stop or a comma, which is potentially more attractive because people watch politics as a gladiatorial sport, when in fact politics is about delivering the best for our country. That's the motivation to go into politics. Can't be to have an argument with someone. It has to be to improve this place, because the motivation to have an argument with someone doesn't get you out of bed in the morning. What gets you out of bed in the morning is making Gibraltar better for your children, making Gibraltar better for tomorrow, and ensuring that your contribution to public life delivers for the public good.
Well, one of the changes that we're going to see is that you won't cross that runway anymore. And today you said that you weren't a fan of the project originally. Has this project been MOD-led in terms of security and not having cars cross that runway?
Well, I don't understand that it was MOD-led. I understand it was Cordoba Agreements-led. Remember that the Cordoba Agreement actually says that one of the things that will happen immediately after the 18th of September 2006 is that the government of Gibraltar will start work on the new terminal and the runway tunnel. But of course, I think that whilst I wasn't a fan of the project when it began, simply because I believed that Gibraltar had other priorities, building new schools, building new mental health facilities, etc., before this project, it was a question of timing and chronology. Ironically, that's how they worked out. But the MOD would have been huge fans of it, even though they weren't leading it. They weren't insisting on it. Why? Because of course there's less chance for FOD or for debris to be on the runway if you don't have cars going across. We've been able to persuade them to continue to permit pedestrians, bicycles and scooters, much less risk of debris from individuals like that than with vehicles, which can leave parts of equipment which may fall from the vehicle. And indeed, I think that therefore we have been able to square the circle with the MOD so that we now have a pedestrian tunnel which will go to the east, and when Gibraltar has a conurbation on the eastern side with the east side project taking off, that will be fundamental. And a runway crossing, still able to cross a live runway as a pedestrian on your bicycle or on your scooter towards the western conurbation, which is the Gibraltar that we know today.
Chief Minister, it would have been difficult for you to go to an election without ticking this box. So how do you feel today? I mean, it must be one box ticked, one big box ticked.
Going to an election is not about ticking boxes. It's about delivering to the people of Gibraltar to the best of your ability and ensuring that you've done the right thing in terms of public expenditure and delivery of key projects. There's a lot, however, of things that we promised that we are going to demonstrate despite COVID and despite Brexit, we are going to be able to deliver. And of course, as we come to the end of the lifetime of this Parliament, you're going to be seeing a lot of those projects come to fruition. You're going to be seeing a lot of things happening in the run-up to the next general election, which will be sometime this year.